What's going on, Sunbelt fans? My name is Dominic Crusetto. Let's take a look at the Week 7 preview for the Sunbelt. We'll actually jump into last night's game that happened Wednesday night that pitted Louisiana versus Marshall up there in Huntington. I predicted that game to go differently than it did. I thought Louisiana would struggle a bit defensively to stop Marshall, and I thought the run game would do pretty well for Marshall. I had Marshall taking this one 21-17. That is almost the opposite of what happened with Louisiana taking this one 23-13. Pretty sloppy game to start off in the beginning. At least, I guess, at least a slow start. Maybe not the sloppiest of starts. But it was a 7-3 game at halftime. Marshall actually led at that point. There was a very long delay before the game got going back in the third quarter due to lightning. And then it did rain a little bit off and on throughout the rest of the game, which did damper the spirits of the people in attendance and probably some of the Marshall players from the looks of it. Every time Marshall had the ball, it just looked like they couldn't get much going. Their starting quarterback gets knocked out of the game early. Laborn had a good game overall, really statistically, but didn't break any huge runs open. And they just altogether just didn't do much on offense to get that game done. And Louisiana looked great on both offense and defense throughout much of the night. So, yeah, did not go the way I thought it would, but hey, there's why they play the games. And now some of the early season conference favorites or preseason conference favorites are all sitting around here with 2 losses. So this thing is wide open, and the guys that are sitting up there at the top undefeated are looking pretty good at this point in time. So let's jump into the game we've got coming up this weekend. That's going to pit Old Dominion versus Coastal Carolina. That game, a 12 noon kick. That's Eastern time on ESPNU. Coastal's favored by 12 points in that one. I don't know. We got Coastal coming in undefeated, looking pretty good, but they did tail off. If we remember that last week against ULM in that second half, did not score a single point. And then you've got Old Dominion coming in off a tough loss to a Liberty team by 14. But if we remember that game as well, Liberty jumped out to a 14-0 lead very quickly off some mistakes offensively by ODU. Once they turned it around, that was a very even game. So this game could be a little closer, but I'm thinking that Coastal's offensive struggles cease to exist a little bit here. ODU defense is pretty good, so nothing would shock me in this one, but I am going to favor Coastal Carolina at 31, and I'm going to go with ODU 18. Next up, we've got Texas State versus Troy. That's a 3:30 Eastern time start on ESPN3. Troy is favored by 16 points. I don't know if I quite see 16 points here. You got to ask the question if Texas State has turned the corner after that victory they had against App State, where they were dominant offensively in that one. Now, we know App State's defense is down a little this year, but Texas State's offense looks like it's rolling. They're trying to establish that run a little bit more, and their passing game can be elite. That Hatcher-Hawkins connection we've talked so much about continues to dominate that for them on the offensive side of the ball. But here we go with Troy's very impressive front seven again. So if they can't get the passing game going for Texas State, they probably will struggle to continue running that ball. I'm going to favor Troy in this one, probably unsurprisingly to most. I'm going to favor Troy 27, Texas State 18. Next up, 4 p.m. kick, ESPN Plus. It's going to pit James Madison, number 25 in the country, versus Georgia Southern. Not only is this the conference at this point, this is going to be my game of the week, and it's also going to serve as my upset of the week. I do think James Madison has continued to be impressive. I think what they do on the offensive defensive side of the ball is absolutely great, and I've been very happy to see what they've been doing along most of the season here. But Georgia Southern has, well, I guess they should say they had low expectations probably coming into this season. A new coach, a new style. Did the players fit the system? It's turned out that they have fit the system, and yes, they did lose last week to Georgia Southern, 33-41. I'm sorry, they lost to Georgia State last week. But they did lose that one 41-33. However, they still put up 33 points, and they've put up a good number of points against a lot of opponents. I think they can continue to do that. Plus, we know the history. Georgia Southern seems to play very well when highly ranked or highly thought of teams come into their house. So there's some kind of magical thing that goes on there with Georgia Southern. Their fans are going to be into it. They're going to be ready and probably really excited to try and take down a ranked team in this one. But we know James Madison's offense can put up points as well. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's going to be a little bit of a shootout. I am favoring Georgia Southern in this one 40-37, and JMU gets knocked off that top pedestal. We'll see if it happens, but I'm going with the upset there in that one. Next up, we've got UL Monroe versus South Alabama. That is a 7 p.m. Eastern kick on the NFL Network. USA favored by 17 points in the spread. I don't know if I see I don't know if I see 17 points for them. I think this Monroe team has been a lot more impressive. I know that the record 2-4 doesn't look great, but if you've watched how they've played, they're really improved over the last two to three seasons. And I think South Alabama is obviously very impressive and could easily be 5-0 with a win over a highly thought of UCLA team pretty much at this point. So the only thing you really got to ask here is South Alabama coming off of a layoff there. They didn't play last week. How does that affect them? So what we've seen so far this year is when anybody's had kind of a layoff, it's been kind of a slow start coming back into it. And Monroe's kind of on a roll right here. Again, not necessarily in the win column, but as far as putting up points, they scored 21 against Coastal last week in a 7-point game. I think this game's closer than expected. I don't expect that 17-point spread to be met. I have South Alabama 34, ULM 24. So I am still favoring the Jaguars in this one, but in a close game, 10-point spread there. Then they finish out the night 7 p.m. Eastern kick on ESPN Plus. Pits Arkansas State going up against Southern Miss. Southern Miss struggled a little bit last week against Troy, only scoring 10 points. Looked pretty good defensively, really. Troy did end up scoring 27 in the end, but I'll tell you what, that pressure from the Southern Miss defense can cause problems. So it'll be interesting to see how Arkansas State deals with that. Blackman's been pretty good about taking care of the ball. He's not really throwing a lot of picks this year. He has had a little bit of fumble issues. We'll see if that can be taken care of. If Southern Miss can get to him quickly and often, we'll see how this one plays out. I actually have this one as the closest game of the week, though, because I think Blackman being mobile could really help out. I don't know how much Southern Miss has seen mobile quarterbacks much this year, and Blackman's not going to run all over you, but if they keep moving him in that pocket and get him out of trouble, they could really open up more of the pass game or that option pass game and see if that can work really well against that Southern Miss defense being maybe overly aggressive at points in time. So I'm actually going to favor Arkansas State in this one, even though Southern Miss has got the favorite on the spread by 4.5 points. I'm going to go with Arkansas State 28, Southern Miss 27. So that's the weekly preview for Week 7. I hope everyone enjoys it. I know there are possibly some wet games this weekend. Hopefully everybody gets everything in without more delays like we saw Wednesday night. But until next time, thanks for listening and downloading, and we'll see you later.